PMI has very explicitly said and clearly said that the exam is not going to test your memory, it's going to test how you respond in a unique context, because that's what is the project definition.
Still, these experienced project managers are not able to clear the PMP exam.
Because PMI certification exams are global standards. They are not a regional standards kind of things and all.
What exactly is PMI expecting? Like, why does this happen?
Even if you have 20 years of experience, probably it could be just one organization or two organizations. The experience alone and the knowledge alone is not enough. You have very limited focus of the global way of doing the project. I have spent my last 15 years as a coach and as a mentor. Many people only practice the command and control way of leadership. So one thing which may be ethical in your country may be not ethical in my country. So you have to analyze the situation.
Hello everyone and welcome to another insightful episode of P3M with Kailash Upadhyay. Today's topic is something that every PMP aspirant has struggled with at some point in their life, which is the PMI mindset and how to develop it. And nobody never really explains it properly. Most of our participants that we see have, studied through different processes. They go through a lot of mock questions and still find themselves not able to clear the exam. And this is because they never truly understand what PMI mindset is for project managers. Today, we have no other than Kailash Upadhyay, who has not just mentored PMP, but also PfMP and PgMP aspirants globally. Thousands of aspirants. He has been able to help them through from preparation to certification. Welcome, Kailash. How are you doing?
Thank you, Pradnya. I'm really, very much looking forward for this session, because I feel it's my professional responsibility, to help the community, because I have spent my last 15 years as a coach and as a mentor to, as you said, thousands of people across the world in various PMI and non-PMI certification. So this topic is really very important, Pradnya, and I am sure that the audience is going to love this topic and it's going to help them pass the PMP certification exam. One thing, Pradnya, that I want to tell you is, many people think PMP is a exam of knowledge, but in my experience, as I said, these thousands of people which I have interacted, trained, I have seen that, people with, even at project management with 20 years of project experience, when they attempt the PMP exam, they fail the PMP exam.
That's
Because
exactly.
they really are only going on their knowledge, on the
Yes.
past knowledge. And what happens, every organization has different culture, and in the culture creates impact on the project. So they have limited knowledge of the standardized way of doing project. And also what I have seen, many people only practice the command and control way of leadership, but today the servant leadership is very important. Also, I had understood, why, most of the global professionals, even after having the knowledge of project management or program or portfolio management, why they fail in their respective certification exam is, uh, you know, uh, the way they handle their team, the micromanagement kind of things and all. So there are, knowledge is not, what I'll tell you, knowledge is not enough to pass the PMI exam, because PMI exam test your leadership skill, and especially acting more like a, servant leader. You have to more a facilitator. You have to help the, project team, the project stakeholder, motivator. You have to solve the impediments. So there are different aspects to the PMI test. It doesn't test, in one culture how the project is done. It doesn't test how, uh, so even after 20 years of experience, the project manager failed to clear the exam because he doesn't know the right way to manage the project. And that is why today this topic is very relevant, where we will discuss about how to set this mindset, which is more than just a knowledge to pass the certification exam, Pradnya.
Exactly. Actually, that was going to be my first question, which you already answered. And because this is something that we see a lot of people struggling with, wherein because they have a lot of experience, but still these experienced project managers are not able to clear the PMP exam. And that's what we wanted to, most of the people that we interact with come up with this, that, what exactly is PMI expecting? Like, why does this happen?
I think so. Wonderful, Prajna, and it is very, very important. See, again, as I said, experience is definitely not enough.
Yeah.
You can't uh, pass this exam only with experience. You need to have the right mindset, and you need to learn the standardized way of managing project, because PMI certification exam are global standards. They are not a regional standards kind of things and all. So when you give the certification exam, PMI don't test how you have managed project in one country or in one region. They test if you are getting an opportunity to do the project in different industry, in different environment, and in different region, then how will you respond at that particular situation? So that
Absolutely.
is very, very important. And this is why we are saying, Prajna, the experience alone and the knowledge alone is not enough, because uh, you know even if you have 20 years of experience, probably it could be just one organization or two organization, and you have very limited focus of the global way of doing the projects. And that is why it is very, very important that for PMI certification aspirants,
Yeah.
knowledge and experience is not enough. The right
Right.
mindset is very, very important. Yeah.
Exactly. So what you're saying is the memorization is not important. What PMI is looking for is more of a behavioral judgment, right?
Awesome. And exactly, you rightly, I think so, point blank question you asked, that, memorization is definitely not going to help you pass the exam. Because what I have experienced, Pradnya, that, people memorize the processes, the project management processes.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, PMI in the 8th edition, they have brought back the process group and the project management process concept, which was removed in the 7th edition of the PMBOK guide. And even until 6th edition, it was more like a process-based standard. 7th edition is a principle-based standard for PMBOK. But the 8th standard is again kind of hybrid. It talks about principles as well as giving you processes. If it fits into your project environment, then you can adopt it. So what I want to tell you is, you ask a very valid question: memorization. Only by memorizing the processes, the tools and technique, we call it ITTOs, the input, tools and technique, and the output. And also I have seen, Pradnya, many people memorize even the definition. They literally memorize the definition of a project, and project management, and risk definition. And also they memorize lot of formulas, the earned value management formulas, the expected monetary value formulas, the and also the communication channel related formulas. There are a lot of procurement related formulas. So what I have seen, people are memorizing the formulas, the process name, the definition, the input, tools and technique, and output. And PMI has very explicitly said and clearly said that the exam is not going to test your memory. It's going to test how you respond in a unique context, because that's what is the project definition. Project is a temporary endeavor in a unique context to deliver value. So, many people do not understand the context in which they need to respond, because every situation will change. There is no one answer for every situation. If the situation change, your answer will change, kind of thing. So, this is very, very important for all the PMI certification aspirants, including PMP, PgMP, PfMP, or any other PMI certification aspirants, that they must understand, Pradnya, that more than memorization, they need to understand how they respond in ambiguous situation, how they deal with stakeholder conflict, how they respond under pressure, how they navigate the volatility into the business environment. Unless this situation is not understood only by memorizing the as I said, input output or process name or definition or formula, is definitely not going to help anybody to pass the PMP certification exam, or first say any PMI certification exam, Pradnya.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely true, Kailash. That is something that, as a human natures, in every situation, people react differently. But PMI is expecting a way of conduct, and that is what people need to understand.
Absolutely. And you rightly said this, Pragya, ethics and professional conducts are tested in the exam. So, memorization, see, and you can't memorize the ethical behavior, because ethical behavior and even professional conduct, it sometimes, I'll say, also vary from region to region also.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can't memorize that what's happening in your region, the same thing. Because one thing which may be ethical in your country may be not ethical in my country. Okay, and I have seen that happening in the way I have moved across the the world geography where I have handled the project. I've seen that the ethics and the professional conduct related guidelines are different. So you have to adapt to those things as well. So that's why memorization is not a solution, Pradnya, to pass the PMP exam. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's I think bang on answer, Kailash. If I My next question is that if I ask you to simplify this PMI mindset that it requires into a few core principles
Very
for
good.
our aspirants, how would you do that?
See, I'll tell you principles or anchors, mindset that you need to have. It is, and this mindset is very important. So I'm going to share some 5 to 6 key mindset anchors that is very, very important. First, I believe that the PMP aspirants, they need to analyze the situation before acting. So what happens, and this is very, very important, they need to understand in the certification exam. What I've seen many people, let's say, if I give you example, if stakeholder is unhappy, then they will not analyze why they are unhappy. What they will do immediately act, they will start blaming the team, and they will start implementing some change, because and that change may create scope creep, add gold plating. So what I've seen, if stakeholder are unhappy, blame game starts, and escalation starts, but they never understand the why the customer are or the stakeholder are unhappy. So you have to analyze the situation, uh, collaborate with the stakeholder, work on a solution that is a win-win results. Get the approval from your sponsor or the project governing body, that how this solution fits into the entire project constraints, budget, schedule, and other constraints. So this is very, very important mindset principle which I want to tell you, Pragnya, that analyze before you act.
Analyze.
Okay, that's very important. The second principle which I want to tell you here, that servant leadership is the powerful leadership style. As a project manager, you need to understand that you don't have to just uh, have to develop every plan yourself. Sometime today the team has the experience and the team is going to do the work. So let the team self organize, give that team that support. You are a coach, you are a uh, uh, you have to solve the impediments. So problem is, and some of those people who have, as I said, they failed the exam because 15-20 years they are not practicing the the servant leadership style. They and their organization, maybe even their leadership team, the way they are handling the project manager, the same way they go down
Yeah.
with their team. So problem is, there is no collaboration with the team, there is no trust with the team, and that is very, very problematic. And this mindset you need to understand as a PMP aspirant, that servant leadership going to give you greater result if you uh, other than the command and control. You can't just command and say that do this as I say.
Yeah.
And you can't just control the team. Okay, so that's a second principle, or the mindset principle that the PMI aspirants, the PMP aspirants needs to have, is follow the servant leadership style. The third principle, or I'll say mindset principle, is fix the root cause, not the symptoms. Now I'll try to give an example and I hope it will add value. See, Kanya, I have seen, let's say in your uh, drawing room, let's say there's a leakage during the monsoon. Generally, what people do is they put some bucket there, they keep cleaning their floor, and they keep shifting their furniture, or they keep repainting their wall because of that seepage issues and so on, rather than fixing the root cause. The go on your terrace and see, maybe is there any drainage problem, or is there any leakage on the terrace. And if you don't solve the root cause, what will happen the next monsoon? Again, you will have to repeat the same thing. You'll have to again use your bucket to so that the water doesn't get spill over on the entire floor, or maybe again every year repainting cost and so on. So this mindset is very important, Prajna, where you need to understand that fixing the root cause is the the core idea, rather than just fixing the symptoms.
Yeah.
So this is very important mindset principle that project manager must carry when they're sitting for their PMI certification exam.
Yeah.
The fourth mindset principle that I want to tell you, Prajna, is communication solve more problem than escalation. This is very, very important mindset. What happens, I'll tell you my own experience, Prajna. You know, one of my friend, when he used to go back home from his office, he, one day he saw that his neighbor has parked his car slightly, awkward position, and he was struggling to, park his own car in his spot. The second day, he also came back from his office and he again saw the same problem. The car was parked, such a way that it was very difficult for him to, do proper parking of his own car. And this was there for another 3-4 days. What this person did is, he directly escalated to the society or the community where he used to manage it. And what has happened, Prajna, that because of it, it became a political problem.
Right.
Because now the society manager, this issue, when it was raised, the other person was also invited. And also it this person also felt, the neighbor, also felt hurt that, the problem was directly escalated to the society manager and so on. And also there was a lot of ego problem came. And then I told him, Prajna, that rather than you could have, maybe have gone one day when you returning from the office and just rang the bell and would have just said, can I have a tea with you? And maybe in that friendly tea conversation, you could have said that, I'm finding it a bit difficult because the way your car is parked, my car is, I'm not able to, park it properly. Probably that person could have said that, oh, I've never realized that this is maybe the problem. And he would have said sorry and may have even given you some cookies also with the tea, and things could have been solved far better than, if you have not escalated. So it's very important mindset in the PMI exam is you had to, communicate proactively rather than escalation. Escalation is the last, if nothing works, if you have tried the communication, tried the negotiation, tried to resolve the conflict, if nothing works, then escalate. So this principle is very, very important principle that every project aspirants needs to follow when they're going to give their exam. The fifth principle which I want to tell you is, Pradnya, stakeholder engagement is continuous activity, because if I tell you again my own story, I'm sorry, I have a lot of personal experiences, so I would like to.
These are good experiences.
Yeah,
very good example,
this is the way when even in my any PMP, PgMP, and PfMP mentoring session, I share a lot of my not just my experiences from my professional world, but lot of experiences from my real life, because in real life also we do lot of project, program, and portfolio management, activities and actions and so on. But let's come back to the fifth mindset principle is stakeholder engagement is continuous activity, not just one-time activity. And many, this certification aspirant don't understand this. If I have to tell you this example from my own experience, from my own life, rather I'll say, it was a story of, if I have to take you back to 3-4 years back, Pradnya, I had planned a family holiday. Maybe where I decided the location, I booked the entire itinerary, travel plan, the hotels, the activities, the food,
Yeah.
the where we'll be stopping, kind of things. And what I thought, Pradnya, that when I will, and in fact, when I shared this, my plan, my family was irritated with me. My son said, uh, I don't want to do the activity you plan. I want more adventurous activity. Or maybe my father told me, that Kailash, your, travel plan is too very busy, and at my age, I can't, you know, uh, I need maybe after one day, I need at least half a day break. You can't just say, okay, you go early morning, come in the evening, and next day early morning, get ready with your backpack and go into some new location or for new activity kind of thing. And my wife is definitely was not happy because, I didn't involve her in the in planning kind of things and all. So what I want to tell you, when, this mindset is very important, Pradnya, because many times the project manager feel that he is there in this organization from last 20 years, and probably he is the maybe most trusted person from the management committee, and sometimes he feel that without even engagement, without even collaboration with the team, whatever he planned will be the best plan. But that doesn't work. You don't, this mindset is the wrong mindset. You have to, and this is very, very important, Prajna, that when we working on a project, it doesn't matter if you have 20, 30 years of experience, planning is always a collaborative exercise. It's a team bonding exercise. And not just during the planning, even execution, the stakeholder expectations change.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to ready with that adaptation, that if expectations change, then my plan should also change. Okay, and that has happened also in my holiday also. If I go back to that, once after that, we sometime, let's say we agreed to go for the holiday. Of course, we created the plan, and that even in the holiday, sometime people, based on the real environment, what they see, they wants to change the plan. But there are some people or the project manager, they have the mindset that is, once the plan is fixed, it have to follow exactly the same way. But that's not true. So this principle is, your plan can be rebaseline any number of time, Pradnya. And also, uh, it is in continuous engagement. And whenever you're planning, it had to be a collaborative exercise. So this is the fifth mindset principle. And in fact, I can share so many mindset principles, but I'll tell you one more principle that is very, very important, Pradnya, is, and especially from the 8th edition, people who going to give exam from 9th of July, this principle is focus on value delivery. This mindset, when you go to give exam, I'm not just saying after 9th of July, of course, after 9th of July, this value will be at the center of project management. But even today also, if you're giving exam, let's say this month or next month or before July 9th, your mindset should be more than just producing or delivering some output. You need to understand that is that output will add value to the organization who is investing their resources. So this mindset is very, very important, Pradnya. So hope our audience, who is aspiring to get this PMP certification, they will follow this mindset principle, and they will able to, I'm sure if they follow this mindset principle, then they will pass the PMP on their first attempt, Pradnya.
That's amazing. I mean, these are really strong 5 principles that you shared, Kailash.
Absolutely.
Just to summarize once again for our listeners.
Yeah.
So the 5 principles that you say.
In fact, I said, sorry, six principles. Actually, yeah.
You said 6 principles for people to inculcate a PMI mindset.
Absolutely.
Within them is, one was, you said analyze.
Analyze before act.
Before acting.
Yeah.
And then
second is servant leadership is the most powerful leadership style.
Most powerful. And the third was
fix root cause rather than just the symptoms.
Absolutely. Fourth,
communication before escalation. Communication solve more problems than escalation.
Perfect. Fifth,
stakeholder engagement is continuous activity, not just one-time activity.
Amazing. And the last one,
focus on value, not just on output.
Amazing. So if we focus on, developing these 6 core principles, I think we would be closer to getting to the PMI mindset that is expected. My next question, Kailash, is that...
and I'm sorry, Pradnya, I want to correct that. See, these are not the project management principle. I think so. In the PMBOK guide, also we have principles of project management. This is not the project management principle. This is the mindset principle that people can apply when they are sitting in the PMP certification exam. So this, note is very, very important, because they should not get confused that because the project management principle, the 6th principle that is defined in the PMBOK guide, they are completely different. So this is the mindset principle that people have to apply during their certification exam.
Right. Yeah. While facing the exam.
I thought I'll make it very, very clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Kailash.
Yeah.
While you were making that clear, I just wanted to also, ask you to explain a little on the servant leadership that you mentioned, the 2nd principle, why that is strong. And for our listeners, just a little bit of idea of what this servant leadership is, if you can share that.
Absolutely, Pradnya. See, I'll tell you, servant leadership is the best leadership style. In fact, in today's environment, the command and control authority doesn't work. See, again, if I have to, share my real life experience. Maybe if I go back, the way my family or my parents has, uh, you know, uh, my upbringing was more like they used to command me something, they used to control me something, and I used to follow them the way. But if I apply the same, leadership style on my kids, then they are becoming,
They would not tolerate it.
they will not tolerate. They are not going. They are not even talking to me sometime because they don't like to tell them follow the set process or set mindset. They tells that you guide us, that you trust us, because servant leadership means trust, servant leadership means transparency, and servant leadership basically means where you solve the problem in the your stakeholder what they are facing. So same thing, my son also, he said, dad, if I'm into a problem, let me do certain thing. If I fall into a problem, then you solve the problem, but don't tell me that don't do this.
Yeah.
So this is, the today's leadership, where giving you the empowering you. Servant leadership means empower. Servant leadership means trust. Servant leadership means solving the impediments. Addressing the impediments. And there are, servant leadership means even sometimes absorbing the, the negative impact. You can't blame your team that the project failed because of you.
Yeah.
As a servant leader, while you're giving lot of flexibility to the team, but you are still accountable for your team failure. So this is very, very important servant leadership, Pradnya. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for explaining that, Kailash. So basically, a collaborative leadership is what PMI prefers over an authoritative leadership. Yeah.
Collaborative, absolutely, because authority will not work today, Pradnya. We seen in today the world is moving where you need to, and you seeing the war is happening in our the world today, where if you try to show authority, probably the war will only escalate.
Yeah.
Rather you collaborate, have a win-win solution, and that is what servant leadership is all about. You don't prove, because many people confuse authority over leadership. So
Yeah.
there's completely different mindset, Kanya.
Great. Thanks for that, Kailash. My next question is that what advice do you think, or what are the major traps that you think that students fall for during the PMP exam nowadays?
Absolutely. Thank you, Pranya, for asking this question, because this is very important question for this PMP aspirants who is giving the PMP certification exam. And the first, the trap which I think many people fall during their certification exam is they believe that agile means no process,
Yeah.
or they believe that agile means no planning, no documentation, no process. But that's a trap. Agile doesn't tell you that don't do planning. Agile tells you plan for a shorter increment or iteration or a sprint. And also, agile does not mean that no documentation. Agile means only necessary documentation. And agile means uh, it does not mean that following no processes. You have to follow the process of, let's say, retrospection. You have to follow the process of backlog grooming or product backlog refinement. So this is a biggest trap when many people fall in their certification exam, because they feel agile means no process at all.
Okay.
The second trap, Prajna, that I have experienced, because there's so many people who go in the exam, and and of course there are my own PMP aspirant, when they failed the exam, they told me, and when I had a kind of a post-mortem after they failed, or kind of discussion or their lesson learned even after that, because sometimes the failure gives more lesson learned than the successes. One thing I also realize, Prajna, that people think change as a threat, but change is not a threat. Change sometimes, uh, when you exploit the change, it increase the benefit. So you have to always ensure that don't take every change as a threat. In fact, even agile is about continuously adapting to change. It's not a threat to your project. So it's very, very important as a project professional, project leader, or even the aspirants who are giving in the exam. Most importantly, they should not go in a mindset that change is a threat, because this is what they have practiced. I was one of that person when I was practicing project management maybe 15, 20 years back. When my sponsor used to give me any change, I used to get irritated. I used to feel that, oh, everything is going smooth, why the change is coming in between? But that change is an opportunity to maximize the benefit. So this is very, very important, I think so, trap that people falls into. If I tell you some other trap, Prajna, which normally the PMP aspirant, they feel that if stakeholder is disengaged, that means, or if he is negatively, not supporting your project, he feels, the project manager feels that, the stakeholder has some wrong intention toward the project or kind of thing. But sometimes I think so stakeholder is disengaged, and if he is, what if I tell you that if he is not acting as per your expectation, it's not necessary that he is wrong, or he is showing some kind of resistance toward any of your project deliverable that creating the value. Probably maybe the way you are managing the project, that is wrong. So this trap is again many times PMI exam will test you in that, where stakeholder resistance is very genuine, very legitimate, but the project manager feel that if stakeholder is negative, then it's an issue, and immediately escalate to the sponsor or to the any PMO or the project governing body. So this is biggest trap, that when stakeholder has any disagreement, and when he is not engaging, probably the way you are leading the project, that may be the problem, Prajna. This
Communication.
Communication is problem. His expectations were not met. Maybe the performance of the projects is not going what you have projected to him, what you have planned. So that is a big trap that project manager don't understand. They feel that if stakeholder is showing resistance toward engagement, then he is negative, and he is now never going to be supporter or leading your project. So that's a biggest trap. There are many traps which I can tell you, now, Prajna. Many people feel that doing more mock exam means they're going to pass the certificate exam. See, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. Because you can't pass the PMP exam by doing 15 or 20 mock tests, or maybe let's say 3,000, 4,000 mock questions. You need to do quality question. If the questions are very simple or not aligned to the PMI way of the question,
Yeah.
then that's definitely a big trap. So many people, I've seen that they feel that doing more mock exams, doing more practice question going to support them. But see the quality of that mock exam. Sometimes just doing 2 mock exams which are really nicely framed, because two mock exam means 180 plus 180, 360 questions. Sometimes test the entire scope of the PMP certification exam. So that's very, very important. And again, the trap is people are not focusing on the, they want to pass immediately. Maybe because again, there's a problem with some of the training institute as well. They only just to sell the course, they always tell the PMP aspirant that you will pass in 2 weeks. And sometimes this is also the people fall in trap. They study for 2 weeks and they just go exam, and then they realize that they get need improvement and below target score in each of the people, process and business environment domain. So it's a trap because of the wrong marketing by some of the training institute. And that is why add-on skills never market that you will pass in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We say that it is a journey of learning where it may also take 3 months, 4 months also. And we evaluate our every aspirants who are preparing for any of our certification exam. So this is biggest trap, that you can pass the exam in 2 weeks.
Right.
It's not going to happen. PMP exam is not an easy exam. It's not just about, as we said, memorization. So it's a trap, Pradnya.
It's also one where a lot of people find it confusing that they think that they know the concept, but out of the 4 answers, they are not sure about 2 answers. So
Yeah.
at that time, how should people answer those kind of questions, Kailash?
I think so. This is a very common question that comes to me, Pradnya. Okay. And generally, how I teach my course participant, I give them a layered approach, Pradnya. Layered approach basically means I tell them when they face any exam question, first see what kind of delivery approach that question has, whether it's an agile, waterfall, or hybrid approach that question scenario test, because your respond will change. Agile is more about continuous feedback
Yeah.
and frequent deliverable, but waterfall is you know predictive way, planning upfront entirely first and then delivering kind of things and all.
Yeah.
So the first uh, approach which I tell the aspirants, that find out what is the delivery approach. The second layer to go into the right answer, Pradnya, is where I tell them map it to the project life cycle.
Right.
See, when you start the project, your activities are different, your efforts are different. When you plan, there are different activities, planning activity. When you doing the work, it's a different activity. So once you understand that question is mapped to a specific phase of a project, your answer will automatically be visible in front of you. Because when you doing the work, when you executing the project, at that is the time you let's say if I give you example, you do quality control, quality assurance, you onboard the team, you conduct the procurement. So there are a lot of execution activities are different. So many people doesn't understand the life cycle well, the life cycle activity well, and that is what should be their focus. So if the PMP aspirant will able to map the question to the project life cycle phases or stages, then the answer will automatically be very very clear. The third thing which I very clearly tell and which generally help my alumni who get mentor through my PMP, PgMP and PfMP, I tell them, understand which are the stakeholder who are referred in that scenario, question scenario. As a project manager, are you communicating with sponsor or with PMO or with vendor or with team or with your customer? See, once you know who is the stakeholder in the context, if sponsor, then you know that sponsor has high power and high interest.
Right.
You need to actively engage with them. Okay, you and your even response will particularly change in that. But if you are talking to somebody, let's say, and vendor, whose interest may be high, but his power may be low, then your engagement strategy will change. You have to keep him informed about the project progress and when he will be actually be most engaged in that project environment. So what I want to tell you is, many people overlook who are the stakeholder who are in this particular question and in that scenario, and that is why they're not able to go into the answer correctly. So that's a third layer of answering the question. So the fourth layer which I ask my participant who go through my training, I tell them many times PMP exam question, Pradnya, they hide the actual problem. You will feel that the question is related to scheduling problem, but the question is related to risk. So this is why people are not able to answer the question, or kind of things, and also they need to understand the real problem that has been asked, because what will be shown to you versus what is really being asked. So this is very, very important if you want to answer the PMP question correctly. The fifth one, Pradnya, the fifth one is, I will tell you, many a time most of the PMP aspirant forget some decision making jargon, such as exam will ask you most likely, least likely, first action, last action, not in, or accept. These jargons change the answer completely, and I have seen many aspirants really forget this aspect of the question. And that is the reason they are not able to reach to the right answer. So this 5-layer approach, what I said, the first approach is understand the delivery approach. If a PMP question is mapped to agile, waterfall, or hybrid delivery approach. The second layer is map the question to the project lifecycle phases or stages. Okay. The third layer which I spoke about is, see who is the stakeholder with whom you are in that particular question scenario you have a problem with or conflict with. Okay, because the stakeholder basis your answer will change. The fifth is, try to find out the actual problem, because what you will see in the whole scenario, but the actual question that will be asked is completely different.
Yeah.
And the last layer to respond is where I said focus on decision making jargon, such as accept, not likely, first, last, at least. These kind of jargons, if you keep focused, then trust me, Pradnya, every PMP aspirants can pass the exam on first attempt.
Excellent, Kailash. That's, I think, a very practical approach that you've given
Yeah.
to all the listeners today.
Thank you, Pradnya.
I want to ask a little bit more on mock exams,
Yeah.
Kailash. I mean, you said that mock exams, quality of questions is important.
Yeah.
But also a lot of professionals, experienced professionals don't have that tendency of sitting for an exam for 4 hours. And at that time, how should they keep their mind calm? And, how important it is to give mock tests, or is it are 2 enough or 3 enough, so that they can get into that practice of giving the exam on the exam day?
Absolutely. See, again, I said it's not about quantity, it's again about quality. But doing mock exams are very, very important, Pradnya. See, because it's close to 4-hour exam. But thankfully, Pradnya, I'll tell you again some stories, Pradnya. And still this is a problem with PgMP and PfMP certification exam. There is no break at all. 4-hour exam, 240 minutes non-stop. And everybody wants to pass the exam. So what I have seen, many of my own, alumni who undergo my certification mentorship, I've seen that some people have fainted in the exam hall because they were diabetic.
Yeah.
And for 4 hours, if they don't take water or they don't eat, they will collapse. And trust God, that has happened. And I have highlighted this many a time, but thankfully they have listened this for the PMP exam. They added 2 break and 2 official break. So now after 60 minutes, the PMI will give you a prompt. Of course, the break is optional. If you feel that you are in a momentum and you are very healthy and all, then you can go and continue. But if you want a break, the clock will stop. And after another 60 question, it will again prompt you for a break, another 10 minutes break. So there are 180 questions. They, so 60 question, first break, another 60 question, second break, and the last set of 60 question. After that, of course, your exam is over. So what I want to tell you, for PMP aspirants, but still, sitting for a 10 minutes because pressure. There is, as I said, everybody wants to pass the certification exam because they have a lot of expectations that if they will pass the certification exam or PMP certification exam, then they will get better opportunity. They will get maybe some increment, some promotion.
The most important question, Kailash. I wanted to ask you, what practical strategy would you advise to a PMP aspirants in order to clear the exam?
Think so. I'll tell you 2 or 3 strategies that is very important, that stop memorizing for PMP certification. Memorization will not help you to pass the exam. Second strategy which I want to share with the community is, practice a lot of mock exam. Okay, and review incorrect answer. Don't go into the PNP exam without doing mock exam, because many people think they have 15 years of experience, 20 years of experience, they know everything about project management. But good mock exam is very important strategy to pass the exam. Also, strategy is, don't keep the mock exam for the last day, because many times people think if I do mock exam on last day or last week, that they will remember more, because the still focus is on memorization rather than understanding the concept. So I always share the strategy that don't drag anything for the last 3-4 days or last week. Last week is just for refresher. You refresh the concept, refer your notes and relax yourself. One day before exam, don't take any new topic kind of things and all. And I think so these strategies are really important, Prajna, for the PMI certification aspirants.
Thank you very much, Kailash. I think that's an eye opener for many of the aspirants wherein the preparation is concerned. We resort to our old methods. And this is something that will definitely help our aspirations prepare better.
Yeah.
Before we close, Kailash, any final advice that you would like to give to our listeners who are PMP aspirants at this point?
See, my final advice to the PMP aspirants is, don't take it just as a certification exam, Prajna, because this is a journey to improve as a project management practitioner. And if you only go to for an exam mindset, probably you will pass the exam, but in career as a real project management practitioner and professional, you will fail. So my humble request or advice, whatever you call it, is spend time in the certification journey. Don't get fooled by some marketing strategy that you don't need to read the book, you don't, or you can pass the exam in 2 weeks. Rather, read PMBOK guide, read PMI exam prep material, collaborate with your mentor, do the gap assessment, do the mock exam. And remember, I said quality mock exam, which tests the real project management scenario. This is my advice. Once you spend time in certification journey, the certification will come automatically, but the long-term value will come is where you will become a great project manager. That's my advice to the community.
Thank you very much, Kailash. I think that was a very powerful message. And everyone who's listening to this podcast today, I'm sure they're going to change their approach in preparing for their exam after listening to this.
Uh, I really enjoyed this
Hope you enjoyed.
conversation. Absolutely, Pragya. Sometime it's about the host, how good the questions are. Your questions were really relevant for this PMI mindset, and our audience who going to watch this episode till the end is certainly going to improve their probability of passing the certification exam on the first attempt. So thank you for a wonderful host, Danya.
Thank you very much, Kailash, once again. For everyone else who's listening, do share this with other fellow aspirants of PMP that you might know, and also PMP professionals who are practicing in your organization. Do share, like, and subscribe our channel so that it can help as many people as possible. That is our goal. And once again, thank you for listening. And this is Pragna signing off. Thank you.